Welcome to session 4. Our plan is to first review the homework. We want to see how you did on that exposure exercise. We also want to learn about confronting versus avoiding. We want to learn about emotional and cognitive processing, and we want to learn about imaginal exposure. We want to establish a memory hierarchy, and we want to identify core beliefs, so we have a lot to do. As mentioned earlier, trauma reactions make it very difficult to face triggers. Facing our fears is the pathway to overcoming them. In our therapy, you will not only confront real-life situational triggers, but triggering memories of traumatic events. You will do this with the same goal in mind, to allow your nervous system to habituate to the memory so that eventually you can remember what happened without re-experiencing what happened. Another aspect of confrontation is confronting the beliefs you developed as the result of trauma. Beliefs are often lodged deeply in our unconscious mind. We will be using a simple exercise to help bring those beliefs into conscious awareness. Once beliefs have been made conscious, we can revise them and integrate them into our daily experience. The visual memory is closely tied to the limbic system, or the emotional part of the brain. Remembering or reimagining the trauma narrative can give us a chance to re-experience it right in the session. Trauma tends to make people swing between two extremes, either re-experiencing memories and feeling panicked, or denying them completely by dissociating. What we will try to do in confronting the trauma is help you to find that middle space, or what is called the window of tolerance, where you are feeling afraid, but not so afraid that you can't think. This window is the most productive for processing trauma. Reviewing the story of your trauma piece by piece will give you an opportunity to habituate your trauma response right in the session. You will create a hierarchy of traumatic memories similar to the one you created for situations. You may have more than 10, but start with up to 10 memories. As you review these memories in session, your therapist will ask you what your SUDS level is. Just as with situational exposure, the goal is to continue recounting the story until your SUDS level drops 50%. As you review these memories in session, your therapist will record them as an MP3 and email them to you. You should review these recordings at least twice per week in between sessions. The goal is to help your nervous system habituate to the memory. Remember emotional processing. In trauma, the limbic system becomes so activated that it robs energy from the cerebral cortex. This is why trauma gets encoded in the limbic system in a nonverbal form. The verbal part of the brain wasn't functioning when it happened. In order for those locked up emotions to be processed, they have to be experienced. This is why therapy for trauma can be so emotional. That's emotional processing. This is cognitive processing. Fortunately, the emotions do process as you allow yourself to feel those feelings, staying with them until your nervous system habituates, and as you stay within the window of tolerance, your limbic system and cerebral cortex will be able to reconnect. This way, your rational brain will be able to speak to your emotions, saying things like, it feels unsafe, but actually you're safe now. Things have changed since the trauma. So in other words, your thinking brain will speak to your emotional brain. The cerebral cortex is like a good parent, soothing the limbic system child. So we have a worksheet for you to help identify those things. At the close of each trauma narrative, the therapist will ask you a series of questions designed to help you uncover your core beliefs regarding the memory. This will help you learn a healthy form of self-observation, as well as increasing your self-awareness and sense of mastery over your thought life. So here are the questions. What primary emotion do you feel? Where in your body do you feel that emotion? If you had a voice, what would that emotion say about the future, about yourself, about God, and about other people? Once you have identified these beliefs, regarding these things, you can tell yourself the truth. One of the things trauma survivors often do is beat themselves up by thinking very negatively about themselves, their future, and others. This is a form of emotional self-harm that occurs when a person has a history of others doing them harm. Because we didn't learn how to treat ourselves respectfully, we tend to carry on the legacy of harm. One of the keys to reversing self-harm is to explore the idea of ownership. This analogy is helpful. If I owned an old bicycle and concluded that it was useless, and I broke it to pieces with a sledgehammer to take it to the dump, would that be okay? Well, yes. If I did the same with a neighbor's bike, would that be okay? Well, no. Why would it be okay to destroy my bike but not the neighbor's? Because you own your own bike. Often we harm ourselves, putting ourselves in the dump because we believe deep down that we own ourselves, but we do not. We are stewards, but not owners of ourselves. For you were bought with a price. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. If we can keep this in mind as we go about changing our belief system about ourselves and the world, we will be kinder to ourselves. So your homework, keep using that breathing song at least twice a day. Continue to expose yourself to trauma-inducing situations, like we learned 2 sessions back, and reducing your suds to 50%, and review the MP3 from the therapist once a day, paying attention to your subjective units of distress.